The sound of gunshots echoed through the night as Lily Blackburn ran, one hand clutching her swollen belly, the other holding up her torn dress. 6 months pregnant and fleeing for her life, she stumbled through the rugged terrain of the New Mexico territory, the pain in her bare feet nothing compared to the fear in her heart. Behind her, voices shouted in the darkness, men who had held her captive for weeks, men who had taken everything from her, everything except her unborn child and her will to survive. It was 1876, in the unforgiving landscape near Tucumcari, New Mexico territory. Lily had been traveling west with a wagon train when bandits attacked, killing most of the party, including her husband Thomas. Instead of ending her life they had kept her, treating her like property to be used and traded. Tonight, when her guards had drunk themselves into a stupor, she had seized her only chance at freedom. The rocky ground cut into her feet as she pushed herself forward, guided only by the faint light of a crescent moon. The baby inside her kicked vigorously, as if encouraging her to continue. The distant glow of what might be a ranch house appeared on the horizon, and Lily forced her exhausted body toward it, praying whoever lived there would show mercy to a desperate woman. "Just a little further," she whispered to her unborn child. "Just a little further and maybe we'll be safe." The light grew brighter as she approached, and she could make out the silhouette of a modest ranch house with a barn nearby. A dog began to bark, sensing her approach. Lily hesitated, knowing she was about to put her life in a stranger's hands, but she had no choice. Her legs finally gave out as she reached the front porch, her body collapsing in a heap as darkness closed in around her. When consciousness returned, Lily found herself lying on a soft bed, covered with a warm quilt. The room was dimly lit by a single oil lamp, and the air smelled of coffee and leather. She struggled to sit up, wincing at the pain that shot through her body. "Easy there," a deep voice said from the corner of the room. "You've been through hell, madam." Lily turned to see a man rising from a wooden chair. He was tall with broad shoulders, wearing a faded blue shirt and worn denim pants. His face was weathered by sun and wind, and his dark hair was slightly too long, curling at his collar. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, kind eyes, concerned rather than threatening. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, her voice hoarse. "Name's Ryder Zimmerman. This is my ranch." He approached slowly, as if afraid of frightening her. "Found you collapsed on my porch last night. You've been out for nearly 10 hours. Lily's hands immediately went to her belly. "My baby seems fine from what I can tell. Been moving around plenty, but you need a doctor. I've sent my hand into town to fetch Dr. Morgan, should be back by midday." He poured water from a pitcher into a cup and offered it to her. "Can you tell me your name, madam?" "Lily Blackburn." She took the cup with trembling hands and drank gratefully. "Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman." "Ryder," he corrected gently. "We don't stand much on formality out here." "Those men might come looking for me," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The ones who held me captive. I heard them say something about using me as leverage with a wealthy family in Santa Fe. They thought I was someone else." Ryder's expression darkened. "How many?" "5. They're part of the Holloway gang. They attacked our wagon train 3 weeks ago, killed everyone except me and 2 others. The others didn't survive the first week." Tears welled in her eyes at the memory. "I know of them. Nasty bunch." Ryder's jaw tightened. "But you're safe here, Mrs. Blackburn. I've got a rifle and know how to use it, and my ranch hands are loyal men." "It's just missed now," Lily said quietly. "My husband Thomas died in the initial attack." Ryder nodded solemnly. "I'm sorry for your loss. Rest now. I'll be close by if you need anything." As he moved toward the door, Lily called out, "Why are you helping me? You don't know me." He paused, looking back with a slight smile that softened his rugged features. Out here we help folks in need. It's how we survive. Besides, my ma would haunt me from the grave if I turned away a pregnant woman in distress. After he left, Lily sank back against the pillows, one hand resting protectively on her belly. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. Dr. Morgan arrived in the early afternoon, a kindly older man with spectacles and gentle hands. He examined Lily thoroughly while Ryder waited outside. "You're malnourished and exhausted," the doctor concluded, "but remarkably, your baby appears to be doing well. Strong heartbeat. With proper rest and nutrition, I believe you'll carry to term without complications." "Thank you, doctor," Lily said, relief washing over her. "Ryder tells me you escaped from the Holloway gang." Dr. Morgan's expression grew serious. "They're dangerous men, Miss Blackburn. They've been terrorizing the territory for months." "I know. They're after me." The doctor nodded grimly. "Then you're fortunate to have found Ryder's place. He's one of the finest men in these parts, served as a scout in the war, knows this territory better than anyone. If anyone can keep you safe, it's him." After the doctor left, Ryder brought her a bowl of hearty stew. "Doc says you need to build up your strength," he said, setting a tray across her lap. "He also said I'm imposing on your hospitality," Lily replied, inhaling the savory aroma. "I can't thank you enough, but I should move on as soon as I'm able, perhaps to Tucumcari where I might find work." Ryder frowned. "In your condition, and with those men looking for you, that wouldn't be wise. I can't stay here indefinitely." "Why not?" He pulled up a chair beside the bed. "My ranch is remote enough that folks don't come calling unless invited. You'd be safer here until your baby comes." "I couldn't impose. It's not an imposition." His voice was firm. "I've got the space, and my cook, Lewis, is always complaining he doesn't have enough people to feed. Besides, I could use some help with the books and correspondence. My education was interrupted by the war, and numbers were never my strong suit." Lily studied him, trying to understand his motivations. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Ryder's eyes held her steadily. "Because it's the right thing to do, and because I know what it's like to be hunted." Something in his tone told Lily there was a story there, but she didn't press. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Thank you. I accept your offer, at least until I can make other arrangements." Over the next few days, Lily regained her strength. Ryder gave her a room in the main house, a simple but comfortable space with a window overlooking the corral. He introduced her to his small staff. Lewis the cook, a cheerful Mexican man who immediately took it upon himself to fatten her up. Pablo, the young stable hand who barely spoke but had a gentle way with horses. And Jeremiah, a grizzled older cowboy who served as foreman for the modest cattle operation. On her fourth morning at the ranch, Lily ventured outside for the first time. The New Mexico sky stretched endlessly above her, a brilliant blue canopy over the rugged landscape. The ranch itself was modest but well-maintained, with a main house, barn, bunkhouse, and several corrals. She found Ryder by the largest corral, working with a spirited bay stallion. She watched, mesmerized, as he moved with the animal, his voice low and soothing, his hands confident but gentle. The horse, initially resistant, gradually relaxed under his touch. "You have a way with him," she commented when Ryder finally noticed her presence. He secured the horse and approached the fence where she stood. "Midnight here. He just needs patience and respect like most of God's creatures." His eyes took in her improved appearance. "You're looking better." "Lewis's cooking must be working its magic." "It is," she agreed. "I feel almost human again. Good enough to help me with those books I mentioned." His smile was teasing. "I'd be happy to earn my keep." That afternoon, Lily found herself at Ryder's desk, sorting through a disorganized mess of ledgers, receipts, and correspondence. The ranch, she discovered, was modestly successful, specializing in breeding quarter horses along with running a small herd of cattle. Ryder had been honest about his limitations with numbers the books were in disarray. "This is quite the tangle," she commented as Ryder brought her tea. He ran a hand through his hair, looking sheepish. "I've never been one for sitting at a desk, always preferred to be outdoors." "I can see that," she replied, looking up at him. The sunlight from the window highlighted the golden flecks in his hazel eyes, and for a moment, Lily felt a strange flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with her pregnancy. She quickly looked back down at the ledger. "I taught school for a time back in Missouri. Numbers always made sense to me." "A school teacher. How did you end up heading west in a wagon train?" Lily's hand stilled. "Thomas, my husband, had consumption. The doctor recommended the dry air of New Mexico or Arizona. We sold everything to make the journey." Her voice grew softer. "He was already weak when we started. I think part of him knew he wouldn't survive the journey, but he wanted to give me and the baby a chance at a better life." Ryder's hand covered hers briefly. "I'm sorry, Lily." The genuine compassion in his voice brought tears to her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, then squared her shoulders. "Now let me see if I can sort out these accounts." As the days passed, Lily settled into a routine at the ranch. Mornings were spent helping Lewis in the kitchen or working on Ryder's accounts. Afternoons, when the heat was most intense, she rested as the doctor had instructed. In the evenings, she often sat on the porch with Ryder, watching the sunset paint the landscape in vibrant hues of orange and purple. They talked easily, sharing stories of their pasts. Lily told him about growing up in a small Missouri town, the daughter of the local doctor, her brief teaching career, and her marriage to Thomas, a kind bookkeeper with dreams bigger than his fragile constitution could support. Ryder shared tales of his own youth in Pennsylvania, his time serving as a Union scout during the war, and his decision to head west afterward, unable to settle back into civilian life in his hometown. "Too many ghosts," he explained one evening as they watched stars appear in the darkening sky. "Out here, a man can reinvent himself." "Is that what you did?" she asked. His expression grew distant. "In a way, left behind some things I'd rather forget." Before she could inquire further, the sound of approaching horses broke the peaceful evening. Ryder was immediately alert, reaching for the rifle that was never far from his side. "Get inside," he ordered, his voice tense. Lily obeyed without question, her heart racing as she peered through the window. 3 riders approached, their forms silhouetted against the twilight. Ryder stood on the porch, rifle visible but not raised. "Evening, gentlemen," she heard him call out. "Something I can help you with," the lead rider, a tall man with a prominent mustache, reined in his horse. "Name's Marshal Fletcher. These are my deputies. We're looking for a woman, might have come this way. Lily Blackburn, pregnant, escaped from custody about a week back." Lily's blood ran cold. These weren't Holloway's men, but they weren't lawmen either. She recognized the leader's voice. He'd been one of the guards at the camp where she'd been held. "Haven't seen any woman fitting that description," Ryder replied evenly. "Not many folks come this way at all. Mind if we have a look around? She's wanted for murder. Killed a man back in Santa Fe before fleeing justice." It was a lie, designed to make anyone harboring her turn her over without question. Lily pressed a hand to her mouth to stifle her gasp. "I do mind, actually." Ryder's voice remained calm, but Lily could see the tension in his posture. "It's late, and I've got a ranch to run come morning. If you've got legitimate business, you can come back tomorrow with real badges, not those fake tins you're sporting." The fake marshal's hand moved toward his gun. You calling me a liar, mister? I'm saying if you don't turn around and ride off my property in the next 10 seconds, you'll be leaving in a box. Ryder's rifle was up now, aimed steady at the leader's chest. For a tense moment, Lily was certain gunfire would erupt. Then the leader slowly raised his hands. No need for bloodshed. We'll be on our way. But this woman, she's dangerous. If you see her, you'd best turn her in. I'll keep that in mind. The three men turned their horses and rode slowly back the way they had come. Ryder remained on the porch, rifle ready, until they disappeared into the darkness. Only then did he come inside, his face grim. They're gone for now, but they'll be back, he said, setting his rifle by the door. And next time they'll bring more men. Lily sank into a chair, trembling. I'm so sorry to bring this trouble to your door. They're not lawmen, they're part of the gang that held me. I know. Ryder knelt before her, taking her shaking hands in his. No real marshal rides with just two deputies, especially not in this territory, and their badges were poor imitations. What do we do now? First thing tomorrow, I'm sending Jeremiah to the real marshal in Tucumcari. He needs to know Holloway's men are impersonating lawmen. He squeezed her hands gently. In the meantime, we need to be prepared. Can you handle a gun? The question surprised her. My father taught me to shoot when I was young. For protection, he said, though I've never had to use a gun against a person. Let's hope you won't have to now either. He rose and went to a cabinet, returning with a small revolver. Keep this with you just in case. And don't go anywhere alone, not even to the outhouse. That night, Lily lay awake long after retiring to her room, the revolver on the nightstand beside her bed. Her baby moved restlessly within her, as if sensing her anxiety. She placed her hands on her belly, trying to calm both her child and herself. We'll be all right, she whispered. Ryder will protect us. It was a strange thought, putting such faith in a man she'd known for barely a week. Yet there was something about Ryder Zimmerman that inspired confidence, a quiet strength, an unwavering sense of right and wrong. In a world that had shown her so much cruelty, his kindness was like water in the desert. As dawn broke the next morning, Lily was startled awake by a gentle knock at her door. She grabbed the revolver instinctively before Ryder's voice came through. Lily, you awake? We need to move quickly. She opened the door to find him fully dressed, his expression tense. What's happened? Jeremiah spotted riders on the north ridge at first light, at least 6 of them, and they're heading this way. He handed her a bundle of clothing. These were my sisters. They should fit you better than what you've been wearing. Get dressed and meet me in the kitchen in 5 minutes. The clothes, a simple brown skirt, white blouse, and sturdy boots were slightly large but serviceable. Lily dressed quickly and made her way to the kitchen, where Ryder, Lewis, and Jeremiah were gathered around the table. Marshall's not due to make his rounds to Tucumcari for another week, Jeremiah was saying. No way to get word to him in time. Ryder nodded grimly. Then we stand our ground. He looked up as Lily entered. Lewis is going to take you to the line shack in the southern pasture. It's well hidden in a grove of cottonwoods. You'll be safer there. What about you? Jeremiah, Pablo, and I will stay here, make it look like business as usual. If those men come looking, we'll tell them you left days ago, headed for Santa Fe. And if they don't believe you, if they search the property, Lily couldn't bear the thought of him risking his life for her. They won't find anything to make them think otherwise, Ryder assured her, and they'd be fools to start trouble with 3 armed men. There's 6 of them, she protested. 7 now, Jeremiah corrected, looking through the window. Another just joined them on the ridge. Ryder's jaw tightened. All the more reason to get you to safety. Lewis knows the back trails. They won't see you leave. Before she could argue further, he placed his hands on her shoulders, his eyes holding hers. Trust me, Lily. I won't let anything happen to you or your baby. The intensity of his gaze sent warmth spreading through her chest. "I trust you," she whispered. Lewis gathered supplies while Ryder prepared 2 horses, a gentle mare for Lily, and a sturdy gelding for Lewis. Within minutes, they were ready to depart through the back door, where the barn would shield them from view of the approaching riders. As Lewis adjusted the saddle on Lily's horse, Ryder pulled her aside. "Stay at the line shack until either Lewis or I come for you. No one else. If we don't come by sunset tomorrow, there's a map in the saddlebag showing a route to Tucumcari. Take it and find Marshal Davis." "I can't leave you, promise me, Lily." His voice was urgent. She nodded reluctantly. "I promise." Something shifted in his expression then, a softening around his eyes. Before she could react, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers in a brief, tender kiss. "For luck," he murmured as he pulled away, leaving her breathless. Then he was helping her onto the horse, giving Lewis final instructions and watching as they rode away, keeping low along a dry creek bed that would hide their departure from distant observers. Lily looked back once to see Ryder standing tall beside the barn, his figure silhouetted against the morning sun. She pressed her fingers to her lips, still feeling the warmth of his kiss, and prayed it wouldn't be the last time she saw him. The ride to the line shack took nearly 2 hours, following winding trails through rugged terrain. Lewis led the way confidently, occasionally stopping to listen for pursuers, but they encountered no one. The line shack, when they finally reached it, was little more than a one-room cabin nestled among cottonwoods beside a small spring. "It's not much," Lewis apologized as he helped her dismount, "but it's solid. Senor Ryder rebuilt it himself last winter." Inside, the shack was simple but clean, with a bed, table, 2 chairs, and a small wood stove. Lewis quickly built a fire and prepared a simple meal from the supplies they'd brought. "Will you stay?" Lily asked as he worked. Lewis shook his head. "Senor Ryder's orders. I am to return to help defend the ranch, then come for you tomorrow. The horses will be hidden in the thicket behind the cabin." He paused, looking at her with kind eyes. "Do not worry, señorita. Senor Ryder is a good man in a fight. He was a famous scout during the war, they say. Very brave, very smart." After Lewis departed, Lily was left alone with her thoughts and fears. She paced the small cabin, alternating between worry for Ryder and the others, and planning what she would do if they didn't come for her. The baby kicked frequently, perhaps sensing her agitation. "It will be all right," she told her unborn child, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. As the sun began to set, Lily prepared for a long night. She added wood to the fire, drew water from the spring, and tried to make herself comfortable on the narrow bed. Sleep eluded her as she listened to every sound from the forest around her: the hoot of an owl, the rustle of wind through leaves, the occasional snap of a twig that made her reach for the revolver. It was well past midnight when she heard the unmistakable sound of approaching hoofbeats. Lily's heart pounded as she grabbed the gun and moved to the window, peering cautiously through a crack in the shutters. In the moonlight, she could make out a single rider approaching, moving slowly. As the figure came closer, relief washed over her. It was Ryder, his broad-shouldered silhouette unmistakable even in the dim light. She rushed to open the door, nearly throwing herself into his arms as he dismounted. "Thank God you're safe," she breathed, suddenly conscious of their closeness. She stepped back, embarrassed by her impulsive greeting. Ryder's face was grim as he tied his horse and followed her inside. In the light of the fire, she could see a dark bruise on his cheekbone and a cut above his right eye. "You're hurt," she gasped, reaching toward his face. "It's nothing." He caught her hand before it touched his cheek. "Holloway's men came just as we expected, 7 of them, demanding we turn you over." "What happened?" Ryder sank into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. They searched the ranch, tore the place apart. When they didn't find you, their leader, the one calling himself Marshal Fletcher, got nasty. Said they knew you'd been there, that they'd tracked you from where they'd been holding you. Did they hurt anyone else? Lily asked, filling a cup with water for him. Pablo took a blow to the ribs. Lewis got back just as things were turning ugly. They probably would have killed us all if the real Marshal Davis hadn't shown up with 4 deputies. Lily's eyes widened. The marshal, but Jeremiah said he wasn't due in Tucumcari for a week. Seems he was already on Holloway's trail. Got word the gang had been operating in the area. Ryder took a long drink of water. Timing couldn't have been better. There was a short gunfight. 2 of Holloway's men were killed, 1 wounded. The rest, including the so-called Marshal Fletcher, escaped. And Holloway himself wasn't among them. He's still out there, probably with more men. Ryder's expression darkened. Which is why I came alone. The marshal left 2 deputies at the ranch and took the others to track the men who fled. I didn't want to risk leading anyone to you. Lily sat across from him, absorbing this information. So it's not over. Not yet. But Marshal Davis knows the truth now. He'll spread word to other lawmen in the territory. Holloway's days of operating freely are numbered. He reached across the table, taking her hand. You're safe for now, Lily. That's what matters. The warmth of his hand on hers sent a flutter through her chest. You came all this way tonight after everything that happened. I couldn't leave you wondering. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. Couldn't leave you alone. Their eyes met across the table, and Lily saw something there that made her breath catch. Desire, certainly, but something deeper too. Something that mirrored the confusing feelings growing in her own heart. Ryder, she whispered, not sure what she wanted to say. He released her hand abruptly, standing. You should rest. We'll head back to the ranch at first light. The moment broken, Lily nodded, fighting disappointment. You should take the bed. You've had a harder day than I have. I'll be fine on the floor, he insisted, already spreading his bedroll near the wood stove. Lily wanted to protest but recognized the stubborn set of his jaw. Instead, she settled onto the bed, pulling a blanket over herself, all too aware of Ryder's presence just feet away. Lily, his voice came through the darkness after he'd extinguished the lamp, leaving only the glow of the fire. About that kiss earlier. Her heart skipped a beat. Yes, I shouldn't have done that. It was improper given your situation. I apologize. Disappointment washed over her. There's no need to apologize. There is. You're vulnerable, alone, dependent on my protection. It wasn't right of me to take advantage. You didn't take advantage, she said softly. It was nice. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackling of the fire. You're still grieving your husband, Ryder finally said, and carrying his child. You deserve respect, not complications. Lily stared into the darkness, wondering how to explain what she was feeling, the guilt that she was indeed still grieving Thomas, mixed with the undeniable attraction she felt toward this man who had risked everything to protect her. Thomas and I were friends since childhood, she said finally. Our marriage was one of convenience and mutual respect. He needed a wife to care for him in his illness. I needed security after my father died and left me with nothing but debts. We were fond of each other, but it wasn't. She hesitated, searching for words. It wasn't a love match, Ryder finished for her. No. Thomas knew that I might need to find another husband after he was gone, especially with a child to support. He made me promise to be open to the possibility. She took a deep breath. The baby isn't his. The confession hung in the air between them. Lily had told no one this truth, not even during her captivity. I don't understand, Ryder said after a long moment. Lily sat up in bed, needing him to see her face even in the dim light. Before we left Missouri, Thomas's brother James came to say goodbye. He'd always wanted me. That night he got drunk and came to the house when Thomas was at the doctor's. He forced himself on me." Her voice shook at the memory. "I never told Thomas. He was so ill and we were leaving anyway. I thought I could just put it behind me." Ryder sat up as well, his expression a mix of shock and anger. "Lily, I'm so sorry. When I realized I was with child, I told Thomas it must have happened just before we left. He was happy, said at least part of him would live on through the baby." Tears welled in her eyes. "He died believing that lie, but this child isn't his, it's the product of violence." "No," Ryder said firmly, moving to sit beside her on the bed. "This child is innocent, and you are a survivor, Lily Blackburn. What happened to you wasn't your fault." His words, spoken with such conviction, broke something inside her. Tears flowed freely now as Ryder gathered her into his arms, holding her as she cried for everything she had lost and endured. "I've wanted to tell someone for so long," she whispered against his chest. "Carrying this secret has been almost as hard as carrying the child." Ryder's arms tightened around her. "You don't have to carry it alone anymore." She looked up at him, their faces inches apart. "I've felt so guilty, not just for lying to Thomas, but for feeling things for you. It seems too soon, too complicated." "Life is complicated," he said softly, "especially out here. We take comfort where we can find it." He brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "I've never met anyone like you, Lily. Your courage, your kindness, despite everything you've been through, it amazes me." This time, it was Lily who initiated the kiss, pressing her lips to his with a gentle urgency. Ryder responded immediately, one hand cradling her face, the other still holding her close. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Ryder rested his forehead against hers. "We should stop," he murmured, though he made no move to pull away. "Probably," she agreed, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. Instead, they kissed again, deeper this time, months of loneliness and fear melting away in the warmth of connection. It was Lily who finally pulled back, suddenly self-conscious of her swollen belly pressed between them. "The baby," she said, placing a hand on her stomach. Ryder covered her hand with his own. "I'm not afraid of that, Lily, or of any of it. I want you to know that." The simple declaration brought fresh tears to her eyes. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said, kissing her forehead. "I know you're strong and brave, and that when I'm with you, I feel more alive than I have in years." She looked up at him, seeing truth in his eyes. "I feel the same way." Ryder smiled, then eased her back against the pillows. "Sleep now. We have time to figure the rest out." He returned to his bedroll, but the air between them had changed, filled now with possibility rather than restraint. They returned to the ranch the following day to find it in a state of controlled chaos. Marshal Davis had established a temporary headquarters there, with deputies coming and going as they searched for Holloway and his remaining men. The marshal himself, a tall man with a steel-gray mustache, met them in the yard. "Miss Blackburn," he greeted her, tipping his hat. "Glad to see you safe. I've heard your story from Mr. Zimmerman's men. Rest assured, we'll bring Holloway to justice." "Thank you, Marshal," Lily replied. "Have you had any success tracking the men who escaped yesterday, lost their trail about 10 miles north?" "They're heading for the territories, I'd wager." He turned to Ryder. "I've got men watching the main routes, but Holloway's crafty, been evading the law for years." "What about the men you captured?" Ryder asked. "One died of his wounds this morning, the other's talking, hoping for leniency. Says Holloway's planning something big, a train robbery near Santa Fe next month." The marshal adjusted his gun belt. "We'll be pulling out tomorrow, heading north to intercept them." "And Miss Blackburn's safety?" Ryder's voice held an edge. "I'm leaving Deputy Wilson here for the next week." After that, the marshal shrugged. Holloway will have bigger concerns than one escaped prisoner. After the marshal moved away to speak with his men, Ryder turned to Lily. I don't like it. Holloway doesn't strike me as a man who gives up easily. What choice do we have? I can't hide forever. Ryder's expression was thoughtful. Maybe not forever, but perhaps until after the baby comes. The ranch is remote, and now that the marshal knows your story, you're no longer a fugitive in the eyes of the law. The idea of staying longer at the ranch filled Lily with both relief and trepidation. Relief at the thought of safety and Ryder's continued presence in her life, trepidation at the growing feelings between them and what they might mean for her future. Are you sure? She asked. I've already brought so much trouble to your door. I'm sure. His voice was firm. This is your home for as long as you want it to be, Lily. Home. The word resonated within her, stirring emotions she'd thought long buried. In the weeks that followed, the ranch did indeed begin to feel like home. With the immediate threat of Holloway seemingly diminished, life settled into a comfortable routine. Lily continued to manage Ryder's books, bringing order to his financial affairs. She also took over much of the correspondence, writing letters to suppliers and buyers in her neat, educated hand. The baby grew bigger, more active. Dr. Morgan visited regularly, pronouncing both mother and child healthy despite the earlier hardships. Another 2 months, perhaps a bit less, he estimated during his July visit, as the summer heat lay heavy across the land. Lily's relationship with Ryder evolved too, gradually and naturally. They didn't speak of that night in the line shack, of the confessions and kisses shared, but something had shifted between them. They worked together during the days, took meals together, and spent evenings on the porch talking about everything and nothing. Occasionally, their hands would touch, or their eyes would meet and hold for longer than necessary, sparking an awareness that neither could deny but neither seemed ready to pursue. It was Lewis who finally spoke of what everyone at the ranch could see. Senor Ryder smiles now, he commented to Lily one morning as they prepared breakfast together. Before you came, he never smiled. Lily felt her cheeks warm. He's a good man, she very good, but sad for many years. Not since his time in the war has he seemed content. Lewis gave her a knowing look. It is you who brings this change, señorita. Before Lily could respond, Ryder himself entered the kitchen, and the conversation shifted to the day's tasks. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching a summer thunderstorm roll across the distant plains, Ryder finally broached the subject they'd been avoiding. Lily, there's something I need to tell you, he began, his voice unusually solemn. Something from my past that you should know. She turned to him, curious. You can tell me anything, Ryder. He took a deep breath. During the war, I wasn't just a scout. I was part of a special unit operating behind Confederate lines. We did necessary things for the Union cause, but... He paused. I took lives, Lily. Not in open battle, but in stealth, sometimes men who never saw me coming. Lily reached for his hand. It was war. Yes, but the things I did changed me. After it ended, I couldn't go back to my old life in Pennsylvania. My family, my community, they wouldn't understand what I'd become. His fingers tightened around hers. So I came west, tried to build something new, but the nightmares followed me. Is that why you understand what it means to be hunted? She asked softly, remembering his words from when they first met. He nodded. For years after the war, there was a price on my head in certain parts of the South. Men I'd operated against, families of those I'd killed, they wanted vengeance. I lived looking over my shoulder, never staying in one place too long. What changed? Time, mostly. Most people moved on, rebuilt their lives after the war. The hatred cooled. He looked out at the gathering storm. And I found this place. Something about this land, its vastness, its harsh beauty, it spoke to me, made me want to put down roots, build something lasting. Lightning flashed across the sky, briefly illuminating his face, the strong lines of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes as he turned back to her. "I've never told anyone else about my time in that unit," he said quietly. "But I wanted you to know who I am, all of it, before." "Before what?" she prompted when he trailed off. Instead of answering, he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small object. In the fading light, Lily could see it was a ring, a simple silver band with a small turquoise stone. "It was my mother's," he explained, holding it between them. "I've kept it all these years, never thinking I'd have cause to offer it to anyone." Lily's breath caught in her throat as she realized what was happening. "I know it's fast," Ryder continued, his voice low and earnest. "And I know your situation is complicated. But these past weeks, having you here, it's shown me what my life could be, what I want it to be." "Ryder," she whispered, her heart pounding, "I'm not asking for an immediate answer, just for you to consider a future here with me. After the baby comes, when you've had time to heal and think clearly." He closed his fingers around the ring. "I want to be a father to your child, Lily, and a husband to you if you'll have me." Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over onto her cheeks. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything now." He slipped the ring back into his pocket. "Just know that the offer stands whenever you're ready." Before she could respond, a flash of movement caught her eye, a rider approaching fast from the direction of Tucumcari, silhouetted against the stormy sky. Ryder stood, instantly alert. "Stay here," he instructed, moving toward the steps. The rider galloped into the yard and dismounted in a single fluid motion. It was Deputy Wilson, who had been in town gathering supplies. "Zimmerman," he called, hurrying toward the porch. "Got word from Marshal Davis. Holloway's been spotted less than 30 miles from here, heading this way with 3 men. Ryder's expression hardened. "When?" "Yesterday morning. Marshall's riding hard to intercept, but wanted you warned." Wilson glanced at Lily. "He thinks Holloway might be coming for the woman." Lily's hand went instinctively to her belly, fear washing over her, just when she'd begun to feel safe, to imagine a future. "How much time do we have?" Ryder asked, already moving toward the door. "If they keep their pace, they could be here by midday tomorrow, maybe sooner. Then we prepare tonight." Ryder turned to Lily, his eyes determined. "This ends now, Lily. One way or another, Holloway won't threaten you after tomorrow." The next few hours passed in a flurry of activity. Jeremiah and Pablo reinforced the barn doors and windows of the main house. Lewis prepared food for what might be a siege. Ryder and Deputy Wilson cleaned weapons and distributed ammunition. Lily insisted on helping, loading cartridges for the rifles and checking the pistols. Her hands remained steady, even as fear churned in her stomach. The baby moved constantly, as if sensing her anxiety. "You should try to rest," Ryder told her as midnight approached. "Tomorrow will be difficult enough." "I couldn't sleep anyway," she replied, but allowed him to lead her to the parlor, where a fire burned despite the summer heat outside. The storm had broken, rain lashing against the windows in sheets. They sat side by side on the sofa, the weight of what was to come hanging between them. On the table before them lay Ryder's mother's ring, which he had placed there earlier. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he said softly, "I meant what I said before Wilson arrived. I want you to stay, Lily. I want us to build a life together." She looked at him, this man who had become so important to her in such a short time. "I've been afraid to admit how much I've come to care for you," she confessed. "It seemed disloyal to Thomas somehow, and too fast to be real. And now I'm afraid we might not get the chance to find out what this could be." She placed her hand over his. But if we survive tomorrow, my answer is yes, Ryder. I want to stay. I want us to be a family. Joy broke across his face, transforming his features. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that left her breathless. When they finally parted, he slipped the ring onto her finger. Tomorrow, he promised, we'll face whatever comes together, and then we'll have the rest of our lives. They held each other through the night, talking softly of the future they hoped to share, of the ranch they would build together, of the child they would raise. As dawn approached, they fell into an uneasy slumber, still entwined on the sofa. It was Lewis who woke them, his voice urgent. Ryder's coming. Still far off, but approaching fast. Ryder was instantly alert, moving to the window. Lily joined him, squinting at the distant figure's 4 horsemen, galloping across the open plain toward the ranch. Holloway, Ryder confirmed grimly. I'd recognize that white horse anywhere, from the wanted posters. The ranch sprang to life as everyone took their assigned positions. Deputy Wilson stationed himself on the porch, rifle ready. Jeremiah positioned himself in an upstairs window with a clear view of the approaching riders. Pablo guarded the back of the house, while Lewis remained in the kitchen, where he had access to both doors. Stay in the parlor, Ryder instructed Lily, handing her the revolver. Away from the windows if anyone gets past us. He didn't need to finish the thought. Be careful, she whispered, touching his face. He kissed her briefly. Always. As Ryder took his position by the front window, Lily retreated to the parlor, her heart hammering in her chest. Through the doorway, she could see Deputy Wilson on the porch, his stance tense as the riders approached. That's far enough, Wilson called out when the men were within earshot. This is Deputy United States Marshal Wilson. Throw down your weapons and identify yourselves. A harsh laugh carried on the morning air. You know damn well who we are, lawman. A deep voice replied. Holloway himself, Lily presumed. We've come for the woman. Hand her over and the rest of you can live. Miss Blackburn is under the protection of the law, Wilson responded. Marshal Davis and his men are on their way. Your best chance is to surrender now. I don't think so. Holloway's voice hardened. That woman stole something of mine when she ran, something valuable. I want it back. Lily frowned in confusion. She had taken nothing when she escaped except the clothes on her back. The only thing Miss Blackburn took was her freedom, Ryder called out, joining the conversation. Something that wasn't yours to begin with, Holloway. Is that Zimmerman? The Union scout turned rancher. Holloway sounded amused. You're harboring a thief, Zimmerman. That woman was carrying documents when we captured her wagon train. Letters that could make a man rich if delivered to the right people in Santa Fe. Suddenly, Lily remembered the packet of papers Thomas had guarded so carefully during their journey, always kept in an inside pocket of his coat. He had never explained their importance, only that they were to be delivered to a business associate in Santa Fe. When the bandits attacked, she had instinctively grabbed the packet from Thomas's body and hidden it in her own clothing. Later, in captivity, she had managed to conceal it within the lining of her dress. In the chaos of her escape and subsequent illness, she had forgotten all about it. A gunshot shattered her thoughts, followed by a cry of pain. Through the doorway, she saw Deputy Wilson stagger backward, blood blooming on his shoulder. That was a warning, Holloway shouted. Next one goes through his heart. Send out the woman and the papers, or we're coming in shooting. Ryder moved to Wilson, pulling him into the cover of the doorway. How bad? Clean through, Wilson grimaced. I can still fight. Gunfire erupted then, bullets splintering wood and shattering windows. Lily dropped to the floor as glass exploded inward from the parlor window. From outside came shouts, and the thunder of hooves. Holloway and his men charging the house. Ryder returned fire from the doorway, as did Jeremiah from upstairs. A scream indicated at least one bullet had found its mark. "They're splitting up," Pablo shouted from the back of the house. "Two coming around." More gunfire, the sound seeming to come from all directions now. Lily crawled toward the sofa, seeking better cover when she remembered the papers. They were still hidden in the dress she had been wearing when she arrived, now stored in a trunk in her room upstairs. If she could find them, perhaps she could end this standoff. Whatever was in those papers, it was valuable enough for Holloway to risk attacking an armed ranch in broad daylight. Making a split-second decision, Lily rose to a crouch and moved toward the back stairs, keeping low as bullets continued to fly. She could hear Ryder shouting orders, the sound of return fire, a man's cry of pain from outside. The staircase was in the rear hallway, away from the main battle at the front of the house. Lily made it to the stairs and began to climb, using the banister for support. Her pregnancy made movement awkward, but fear and determination drove her forward. She had just reached the top landing when a floorboard creaked behind her. Lily whirled, raising her revolver, to find herself face to face with a tall, bearded man, one of Holloway's gang. "Well, well," he sneered, his own gun trained on her. "If it ain't the pregnant lady herself." "Boss will be happy to see you." Lily's finger tightened on the trigger, but before she could fire, a shot rang out from further down the hallway. The outlaw's expression registered surprise, then emptiness as he crumpled to the floor. Behind him stood Pablo, rifle still raised. "Are you hurt, Miss Lily?" the young man asked, hurrying forward. "No, I'm fine, thank you, Pablo." She lowered her revolver, heart racing. "I need to get something from my room, something that might stop all this." Pablo nodded. "I will guard the stairs." In her room, Lily went straight to the trunk where her old dress was stored. Her fingers worked quickly, finding the small tear in the lining where she had hidden the packet. It was still there, a slim bundle of papers sealed with wax. Whatever these contained, they had cost Thomas his life, along with everyone else in their wagon train. They had led to her captivity and now threatened everyone at the ranch. She was tempted to destroy them on the spot, but something held her back. If they were truly valuable, perhaps they could be used to negotiate. Tucking the packet into her bodice, Lily hurried back to the hallway where Pablo waited anxiously. "The shooting has stopped," he informed her. "I think they are talking again." They descended the stairs together, moving cautiously toward the front of the house. In the main hall, Lily found Ryder and Wilson crouched near the open front door. Through it, she could see two bodies lying motionless in the yard. Jeremiah was positioned at a window, rifle aimed outward. "Where the hell were you?" Ryder demanded when he saw her, his face a mask of worry and anger. "I told you to stay in the parlor." "I know what Holloway wants," she replied, pulling the packet from her bodice. "These papers. Thomas was carrying them when we were attacked. I took them without thinking and hid them." Ryder's expression shifted from anger to surprise. "What are they?" "I don't know. Thomas never told me, only that they were important to his business in Santa Fe." She handed the packet to Ryder. "Maybe we can trade them for our safety." Before Ryder could respond, Holloway's voice came from outside. "I know you've got dead and wounded in there, Zimmerman. This can end now if you just give me what I want." Ryder examined the sealed packet, then looked up at Lily. "It's your call. These belong to your husband." Lily hesitated only briefly. "Use them. Whatever they are, they're not worth dying for." Ryder nodded, then called out, "Holloway, we have your papers." A tense silence followed. "Prove it," Holloway finally shouted back. "Sealed packet with a red wax seal bearing the letters WC, Ryder described. "That what you're looking for?" Another pause, then. "Toss them out and we'll go." "Not a chance," Ryder replied. You and your remaining man lay down your weapons, then back away to the edge of the property. Once you're there, I'll place the papers on the porch and retreat inside. You can collect them after we're secure. How do I know you won't shoot us when we're unarmed? You don't. But it's your best offer. Marshal Davis is on his way with reinforcements. This is your only chance to get what you came for and ride away. The standoff stretched for what seemed like an eternity. Finally, Holloway responded, "All right, Zimmerman. We're laying down our guns. Don't try anything." Through the partially open door, Lily could see two men, Holloway and his remaining henchmen, slowly place their weapons on the ground and back away, hands raised. "Keep them covered," Ryder instructed the others. He turned to Lily. "Stay inside, away from the door." "Be careful," she whispered, squeezing his arm. Ryder nodded, then cautiously moved to the doorway, the packet in his hand. As promised, he placed it on the edge of the porch, then backed into the house, rifle ready. "It's all yours, Holloway," he called. "Take it and ride out, don't come back." From their position inside, they watched as Holloway approached slowly, eyes darting between the house and the packet. When he reached the porch, he snatched up the papers, quickly verifying their contents. "Smart decision, Zimmerman," he called, backing away. The woman wasn't worth dying for anyway. Lily felt Ryder tense beside her, but he remained silent as Holloway and his man retrieved their weapons and mounted their horses. "This ain't over," Holloway warned as they prepared to ride away. "Not by a long shot." "It is for you," came a new voice from the edge of the property. Marshal Davis sat atop his horse, flanked by 6 deputies, all with rifles aimed at Holloway. "Drop those weapons. You're under arrest." What followed was brief but violent. Holloway, rather than surrender, made a desperate attempt to escape, firing wildly as he spurred his horse forward. The marshal's men returned fire, and Holloway fell, his white horse galloping riderless into the distance. His companion threw down his weapon, surrendering immediately. As the marshal's men secured the prisoner and approached the bodies to confirm the deaths, Ryder turned to Lily, gathering her into his arms. "It's over," he murmured into her hair. "Really over this time." Lily sagged against him, relief washing through her like a physical force. "I can't believe it." The aftermath of the gunfight was a blur of activity. Dr. Morgan was summoned from town to tend to Deputy Wilson and Pablo, who had taken a grazing wound to his arm. The marshal's men removed the bodies of Holloway and his 3 dead companions. Statements were taken, reports written. Through it all, Lily stayed close to Ryder, drawing strength from his solid presence. When Marshal Davis finally approached them, his expression was grave. "Those papers," he said without preamble. "May I ask what they contained?" Ryder looked to Lily, who nodded. "We don't know," he admitted. "They belonged to Miss Blackburn's late husband. Holloway seemed to think they were valuable." The marshal nodded thoughtfully. "Holloway was working for someone powerful, has been for years. Those papers might tell us who." He hesitated. "If they survive, that is." Ryder smiled slightly. "The packet I gave Holloway contained blank pages. I kept the real ones." He withdrew the true packet from inside his shirt. Seemed prudent in case he tried something. Surprise, then approval crossed the marshal's face. "Smart move, Zimmerman." Together, they broke the seal and examined the contents. Inside were documents detailing corruption within the territorial government, evidence of bribes, land fraud, and connections to outlaw gangs like Holloway's. Most damning were letters signed by William Carson, a prominent businessman with political ambitions who was rumored to be the next territorial governor. "This explains a lot," Marshal Davis murmured as he read. "Carson's been buying influence for years. These would ruin him." He looked up at Lily. "Your husband, how did he come by these?" "Thomas was an accountant," she explained. He worked for several businesses in Missouri, including a shipping company with ties to Carson's Enterprises. He must have discovered discrepancies in the books. She shook her head sadly. He never told me what was in the papers, only that delivering them to the right person in Santa Fe would secure our future. He was a brave man, the marshal said solemnly, and these will ensure justice is done. As evening fell, the ranch slowly returned to a semblance of normality. The marshal and most of his men departed, taking the prisoner and the documents with them. Only 2 deputies remained behind to stand guard, though the threat seemed truly past with Holloway dead. Lily sat on the porch swing with Ryder, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. His arm rested comfortably around her shoulders, her head against his chest. "I keep thinking about Thomas," she said softly. "About how he died trying to do the right thing." Ryder's hand stroked her hair gently. "He sounds like a good man." He was, kind and principled. She placed her hand over her rounded belly. "I wish things had been different, that he could have lived to see his plans through, that this child could have known its father." Ryder finished when she trailed off. Lily looked up at him, seeing the understanding in his eyes. "Not its biological father," she clarified. "But yes, Thomas would have been a good father despite everything." "And now?" Ryder asked, his voice tentative. Lily placed her hand over his heart, feeling its steady beat beneath her palm. "Now I believe this child will have a father who will love it as his own, who will teach it honor and courage and kindness." She met his gaze directly. "If that's still what you want." "It is," he said without hesitation. "You, the baby, this life together, it's everything I want, Lily." Their lips met in a tender kiss, full of promise and possibility. When they parted, Lily felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. "When?" she asked simply. Ryder's smile was radiant in the fading light. "As soon as you'd like. We can ride into Tucumcari tomorrow, find the preacher." "Tomorrow," she agreed, nestling closer to him. "A new beginning." They were married the next afternoon in the small church in Tucumcari, with Louis, Jeremiah, and Pablo as witnesses. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. Lily wearing a blue dress borrowed from the storekeeper's wife, Ryder in his best shirt and polished boots. The silver and turquoise ring slid perfectly onto her finger as they exchanged vows. "I promise to protect you and your child with my life," Ryder added to the traditional words, his voice steady and sure. "To be the husband and father you both deserve." Lily's own voice trembled with emotion as she responded. "And I promise to build a home and a future with you, to stand by you in all things, and to love you for all the days of our lives." Their first weeks of marriage passed in a haze of happiness, despite the ongoing repairs to the bullet-riddled ranch house. They moved into the main bedroom together, Ryder's strong presence keeping the nightmares at bay. Each morning, Lily woke to his gentle touch, his whispered words of affection. Each night, they fell asleep in each other's arms, talking of the future they would build. As August gave way to September, the baby grew increasingly active. Dr. Morgan visited weekly now, predicting the birth would come before the month's end. "Everything looks perfect," he assured them during one examination. "The little one is in the right position, and you're in excellent health, Mrs. Zimmerman." The new name still sent a thrill through Lily each time she heard it. Mrs. Zimmerman, wife of Ryder, mistress of the ranch that was now truly becoming her home. The labor began on a warm September evening as Lily and Ryder sat on their porch, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. The first pain took her by surprise, sharp and insistent. "Ryder," she gasped, clutching his arm. "I think it's time." What followed was a long night of pain and anticipation. Dr. Morgan arrived within hours, having been staying in Tucumcari in preparation for this moment. Lewis boiled water and prepared clean linens. Jeremiah rode to inform the nearest neighbors, who sent their wives to assist. Ryder refused to leave Lily's side, holding her hand through each contraction, wiping her brow, murmuring encouragement. As dawn broke over the eastern horizon, her labor intensified. "You're doing beautifully," Dr. Morgan assured her. "The baby will be here soon." With a final, tremendous effort, Lily brought their child into the world, a robust boy with a shock of dark hair and a lusty cry that filled the room. "A son," Dr. Morgan announced, placing the swaddled infant in her arms. "Perfect in every way." Tears streamed down Lily's face as she gazed at her child. Beside her, Ryder's eyes were also wet as he reached out a tentative finger to touch the baby's tiny hand. "Hello, little one," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Welcome to the world." The baby's fingers curled reflexively around his, and something powerful passed between them, a connection, a promise. "What shall we call him?" Lily asked, looking up at her husband. Ryder considered for a moment. "Thomas," he suggested softly, "to honor the man who brought you west. Who, in his way, led you to me." Fresh tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. "Thomas Ryder Zimmerman," she agreed. "A good, strong name for a new beginning." As the sun rose fully above the horizon, bathing the room in golden light, the three of them, Ryder, Lily, and baby Thomas, shared their first moments as a family. Outside, the vast New Mexico landscape stretched to meet the sky, full of promise and possibility. "I love you," Ryder murmured, kissing Lily's forehead. "Both of you." "And we love you," she replied, her heart so full it felt it might burst. "Now and always." In the years that followed, the Zimmerman ranch prospered. Ryder's breeding program produced some of the finest quarter horses in the territory, while Lily's careful management of the books ensured their financial stability. Their home expanded to accommodate their growing family. Thomas was joined by a sister, Emma. 2 years later, followed by twins, Sarah and James, the year after that. Word of William Carson's corruption spread throughout the territory, ending his political aspirations and leading to numerous arrests among territorial officials. Marshal Davis personally delivered the news to the ranch, along with a substantial reward that had been offered for evidence against Carson's criminal enterprises. "Your husband's courage made this possible," he told Lily during that visit. "Both your husbands in different ways." The reward money allowed them to expand their holdings, purchasing adjacent land to increase their cattle operation. Ryder hired more hands, built a larger barn, and established the Zimmerman brand as one of respect and integrity throughout the territory. Lily found her own place in the community as well. Drawing on her teaching background, she established a small school on the ranch for their children and those of neighboring ranchers and their workers. 3 days a week, the sound of young voices reciting lessons filled what had once been the bunkhouse, now converted into a classroom. On Thomas's 5th birthday, Ryder took the boy riding for the first time on his own pony, a gentle palomino bred specifically for him. Lily watched from the porch, baby James on her hip, as father and son rode around the corral, Thomas's face alight with excitement. "He looks just like his pa," Lewis commented, coming to stand beside her. "Yes, he does," Lily agreed, her heart swelling with love as she watched Ryder's patient instruction, his protective hand steady on Thomas's back. That night, after the children were asleep, Lily and Ryder sat together on their porch swing, as had become their custom. The years had added a few lines to their faces, a touch of silver to Ryder's temples, but their love had only deepened with time. "You ever think about how we began?" Lily asked, her head resting on his shoulder. about how close we came to never having any of this. Ryder's arm tightened around her. Sometimes, but then I remember what my father used to say, that the hardest trails often lead to the most beautiful destinations. Wise man, your father, he would have loved you. Ryder kissed the top of her head. Almost as much as I do. As the stars appeared one by one above them, Lily thought of the desperate woman she had been 6 years ago, fleeing through the night, carrying an unwanted child and harboring little hope for the future. How strange and wonderful that her darkest moment had led her here to this home, this family, this man who had become her protector, her partner, her love. No regrets? Ryder asked, seeming to read her thoughts. Lily turned her face up to his, love overflowing. Not a single one. Their lips met in a tender kiss, reaffirming the promise they had made to each other on that September day years ago, to face whatever came together, to build a home and a future, to love each other for all the days of their lives. Around them, the ranch settled into evening quiet. Inside the house, their children slept peacefully. Beyond the porch, their land stretched toward the horizon, a testament to what they had built together from the broken pieces of their past. And above them, the New Mexico sky spread vast, and star filled a canopy of possibility for all the years to come.